can be very fraught, and I think leading down into the first corner now, it's going to be tough as the red lights are on.
Let's have a look to see who gets the break off the line as they go. Relatively little wheel spin, cars diving out. Somebody stalled in the middle of the pack. Yellow flags wave frantically. Gutierrez, though, seems to have got the best of the starts. Nico Muller also, I think, having a good run, as has Wickens around the outside. I think Robert Wickens going to try and outbrake the world. Looks like he may well have done it, held the car in tight, but it is Esteban Gutierrez who's got away. Lots of cars taking that shortcut through. But it seems as though somehow, Tom Gamer, they managed to have got the way through. But is that Van der Zande back all the way there? And then 10 car, no, that's the 11 car, so it's his teammate there of Melka, who's coming through the middle of the pack there. Difficult to tell when you see them from a distance as they break down into second chicanes, and a big flick of oversteer as they come through the middle of the pack there.
I think that was, who's that Mary that's run wide there? Yeah, Roberto Meri in the ATEX CRS GP car getting very wide into the Roger the second chicane. It's very bumpy on the downhill approach to that, as we see. Is that Rossi?
That's Rossi, yeah. It's Alex Rossi. Some wins earlier in the year. Saw him winning in Barcelona and also in Hungary as well. So,
well, that's a big dent in his championship. He has a possibility to finish in the top 4, and with a DNF here, that's not what he was hoping for. And with the others looking like they're going to score, as Dean Smith heading through the field there. Was it Dean Smith, I think?
Yeah, I think it was. Nunez there, just saw running just a little bit wide.
Newgarden, that was Newgarden. He's going to have to defend now, leading down into the Parabolica. It was Newgarden. Look, the cars fan out. Great to see such close
contact. Sorry, Tom, there's contact in the middle there. And you can see the car bouncing across the grass there, the 17 car, given airish. And he just about managed to get it all sorted out. I mean, they basically went side by side into the Parabolica, and there's always going to be a tough call to get around there neatly, but obviously Gamara is fortunate to get away with not any worse damage than that, or certainly seemed to get away without any damages. The 4 car of Wickens round the outside of Gutierrez.
That's for the lead. So Robert Wickens benefited from the tow very fast towards the end of the last lap. Now he's going to have to defend, as Gutierrez will try and come back, but Gutierrez has got to worry about Muller there if he tries to go all out. Muller's all the way around the outside of him. He's all the way around the outside of Wickens as well. That's not going to work. He's got to go straight through the chicane, but he'll rejoin. He's got to let Wickens back through, but he'll go defensive now to Gutierrez down into the first Lesmo. Banked on the way in here. Long corner, difficult to see all the way through. As we head down now to the second Lesmo, much shorter, get the car in, but it wants to oversteer from the apex all over those exit curbs. Wickens running a little bit wide there, he's pushing very hard at the front.
Van der Zande having a look at Gutierrez in the background. Van der Zande came off the back of such a strong campaign in British Formula 3 last season, finishing runner-up in the championship there, but has had a tough year this year, hasn't really fallen for him, so much promise, and we know the ability of the young Dutchman. As Wickens now, another man that certainly has impressed us throughout the year, defensive already and having to worry about Muller going a long way around, almost 4 abreast there as it all comes fanning out into the braking area of a Parabolica, and it does look like it's Muller from Wickens. Gutierrez is going to lose out. I think he is. Yes, he's lost out there.
And Van der Zande lost out. Not so much places, but he had a huge run, but Gutierrez running wide kind of put paid to his chances. So look at this is incredible. The slipstream, the tow that we talk about so often, you can really see it in practice now as the cars fan out into the first corner. As Wickens locking up, he's running wide.
Is he going to hang on to it? No, he's had to say the short. Is he going to have to give that back? Is he going to give that position back, Tom? I think he's going to have to. Yes, he has. Muller's gone back ahead of him, and now he's still sitting in there. Gutierrez just ahead of Van der Zande, and then everyone. It's basically got a leader, and everybody else is second. It seems to be like that.
Yeah, we've got a 6-7 way lead for the battle here. As Muller going defensive, Wickens on the outside. They're both wide. Now what's going to happen? As we see.
I think they've just come back in sort of the same positions that they were when they went off. But
yeah, they have, because Muller was slightly further ahead, wasn't he? But that was a big lock-up from him.
The question being, of course, as Van der Zande runs very wide on the exit of the first part of the Lesmos, and even wider for Mehi. Mehi, big dramas there. He's going to drop down behind Gutierrez, and then I think he's going to get caught up by, it's that couldn't quite see who that was. Or was that James Jakes maybe coming through the middle of the pack there? Certainly looked like one of the Manor cars.
Hirinato, I think.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
I think that's Rio.
Yeah, he seems to have recovered relatively well after that drama. He's just ahead of Van der Zande and Merhi. At least a couple of the Manor cars in the scope. Apologies if we're not too precise. Simply, we don't have live timing available for us to look at this race, so we're having to use our long shots of eyesight, long shots in our eyesight, basically, to work out where we are with everybody.
So here we are. We've got Muller under pressure from Wickens. Gutierrez in third, Haryanto fourth, Mary fifth. And he's having to defend from Hedgeveld now. We're on board with Wickens as he and Muller going very late on the brakes. That's another big lock-up, but he's all the way over the grass, so he outbrakes himself massively there.
And somebody else running across the grass. I think that could be Murad in the background. Certainly looked like one of the status cars, and Murad was around about that point on the circuit.
Muller's actually given that place back.
Now, surely, I mean, Muller seems to...
He didn't lose a place there, but he's obviously under pressure now from Gutierrez, so being quite the gentleman there, Muller, he's... don't always see that. You see drivers try and cheat at every possible opportunity, don't you?
Oh, better contact there and running wide once again for Murad. I think he's recovering. Cars 4 and 25 at turn 5. So under
Wickens.
Investigation, yeah. So Wickens and 25 Muller. That must be when they ran wide.
Yeah, they're constantly over. I think that was the second chicane, as we see.
One of the others. That must be Nunes in the back, and then Girelli,
yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of frantic waving going on in terms of
the marshals are trying to get him out so they can recover that car before the field gets there. Otherwise, we'll see a safety car. We don't want to see that.
No, I think it could be that. It could be quite possible that we may get Haryanto having a better run of late. Of course, we see him dovetailing. There's a lot of drivers who've dovetailed the GP3 program with other activities. Yeah. Coletti, we saw having a tough qualifying. He's been, of course, in World Series as well as this. We've seen Haryanto doing some British M3 as well.
He's putting our championship winner under pressure here. Gutierrez, we talked about being the class of the field. He's been so fast this year, and it's a surprise he didn't win the championship at Spa. It's the only round this year that he's failed to score at. Everyone expected it there, but he's clinched it now, and Haryanto just drafting round the front of him there, all the way around the outside of him in the toe, and Gutierrez now has to consolidate and think about what he's doing in terms of moving forward. We're going to head for a commercial break. We'll be back with you shortly.
See you in a moment on Eurosport. Take care. It's Monza in Italy. It's the final weekend of the inaugural GP3 season, and we've been watching a fantastic start to this race, an absolute dogfight between about 6 or 7 cars, lots of corner cutting, wheel-to-wheel action, some wheel banging, all kinds of stuff going on, changes of lead. And then we now ride on board with Robert Wickens, who's been in the lead, dropping back. All kinds of things have been going on. He took victory at Spa, victory earlier in the year as well. And the Canadian driver, one of the championship favourites, has just lost out to Esteban Gutierrez.
Here we go. If we stay on board, you'll be able to see the toe. Watch the car behind start to gain if he gets close enough. He's not quite close enough to capitalise. And this is Gutierrez now. Yeah, it was... The reason he wasn't gaining is because Wickens was towing with Muller. So, as we see, is Haryanto in the lead?
Yeah, Haryanto worked his way into lead. It's Haryanto, Wickens, Muller just ahead of Gutierrez, and then I think Merhi on the back of that, and Renger van der Zande. That is our scrap for the lead. And really, those of you who have motorsport stories, go back to 1971, the Italian Grand Prix, one of the closest finishes ever. 5 cars crossed the line almost side by side. Well, looks like we could see a 2010 version of that coming up here with just about any of these guys. Merhi got pushed out wide, of course, had a big moment on the exit of the Lesmos earlier on as Muller. Gutierrez very brave around the outside, but he seems to know just about when and where and when not to take those risks, doesn't he, Tom?
Yeah, very good driving there, because I thought that if he'd have braked earlier, as we see Muller run very wide there, that's what I was talking about earlier. You get the oversteer from the apex, get on those exit curbs, it's impossible to stay in the throttle, and you slow all the way up to this Ascari chicane. Now, the top 2 getting away a little bit. These 4 behind are going to have to stop scrapping if they're to draft back up and make this what was a six-way battle for the lead. You're watching more overtaking than we've seen all year. This is absolutely incredible stuff. And Monza, the long straights and the big braking zones really lending itself to this tight racing that we're watching now.
But the interesting thing is at the moment it looks like there's a bit of a breakaway, but I don't think realistically that's going to last for long. The problem seems to be for the drivers at the front, whereas let's have a little look at a replay here, Tom, see what's going on here.
Well, that's why Gutierrez couldn't tow up to Wickens, because Wickens was in the tow from Muller, and he's dived to the inside, got that move done, and Gutierrez has a look on the outside. That's not going to work. Muller holds station, but he's going to be under. But this is him running wide, I think, the second. Look, there's the oversteer. So you turn in, oversteer from the apex. Very short corner that, so if the car doesn't feel quite right, you're just going to lose all the way through.
All of these cars seem to be very nervous. I think maybe, do you think they're running because they're running a low downforce setup here, Tom, to give themselves straight line speed? It means the rear, balance isn't there, is it?
The rear wing plane, there's hardly any grip, and you rely a lot on mechanical grip around here, and this will be the first time that these drivers have probably run with this little downforce on the car, so it's just taking them a little while just to get used to the fact that they don't have quite as much grip as they think they do.
And obviously running in traffic as well, whereas in qualifying and free practice they probably would have been on their own. In the background we see things. Is that Muller having a little look down the inside of Mehi?
Yes, Muller's recovering. So, and he'll want to get back up to Wickens, because he's ultimately fighting Wickens for second place and third place in the championship.
Yeah, coming into this race, there was 13 points between Wickens in second and Muller in third. Alex Rossi, that we saw retire at the beginning. I think maybe we saw somebody stall on the line, and then we saw a damaged car of Alex Rossi with a suspension broken. I wonder if maybe he collected that stalled car. That certainly looked like the evidence.
Wickens driving a good race here. He's trying not to put Haryanto under too much pressure, because he saw that they had a bit of a breakaway. Having said that, Gutierrez has made a break from Muller and Mary, so he's now going to catch Wickens. What I'm trying to say is, if Wickens fights with Haryanto, Gutierrez will be on them in a shot. Now he's trying to get that break, but it doesn't look like they're going to get away from Gutierrez, because he is now in the grasp. So he can see Wickens, and I think one more lap we're going to have a three-way tie for the lead, and he's going to bring Muller back and Mary back, I think, as the cars behind fanning wide. That's Newgarden defending.
Yeah, Newgarden moving left and right. I suppose a little bit of weavy maybe, and on the outside looked like one of the Genza cars came through.
It's Melker, I think.
Was it Melker? Yeah, I think it might have been, because that's about where it was. An oversteer on the curb there for James Jakes in the middle of the pack there. The 14 car of Newgarden, as you said. Now we're back on board with Wickens around the outside. Taking the lead. This is Haryanto, isn't it? This is a really good move.
He's defending because he was slow into the first bit, which meant he had to stop the car through the second right bit of the chicane, and now he's under pressure from Haryanto. In turn, he's under pressure from Gutierrez. We're back to our scrap for the lead. This is what we want to see. 5 to go. Wickens wide in the second Lesmo as we lose the picture slightly. Down to the Ascari chicane. There's a yellow flag there, or is that a white flag?
That's a slow move. Who is that? We can't see. It's one of the. I think it could be Pablo Sanchez Lopez, maybe. Or is it Van der Zande? Yeah, it's Renger Van der Zande, I think, with a yellow crash helmet. That could be a problem for him, because he's dropped out of the pack. But yeah, he's certainly not there anymore. He was right in the back of that pack before, wasn't it? So let's concentrate on what we can see, and what we can see is Robert Wickens looking in his mirrors, understanding where Esteban Gutierrez, Rio Haryanto, Roberto Mehi, where are those drivers are. Muller, of course, in the pack as well. And really at the moment, although there's a slight break for Wickens, as we've just seen, doesn't really count for an awful lot. Look at the gap, just 0.7 of a second as they cross the line. Those 5 drivers at the pack. Then you see that back to Bertolotti, who's come through. James Jakes having a strong run in the top 10. Murad, who set fastest that early on in the race. And then a couple of the other Brits there.
Wickens wide. He's going to be under pressure now from Gutierrez all the way down to the De La Roggia second chicane. Yeah, Gutierrez will tow up to him now.
Let's have another look now. You see, look, this is round the outside, very late on the brakes. Haryanto almost, I won't say exactly let him through, but he certainly didn't roll off the brakes to try and block that pass. I think he realised that in playing the long game, if you like, to quote other sports. And look at the run that Gutierrez has got there on Haryanto. That was a brilliantly timed run through the Ascari chicane, wasn't it?
Very good, yeah. Haryanto on the wrong line and suffering all the way through, and then very slow onto the straight. out of the second Lesmo. Wickens successfully defended that charge from Gutierrez. Haryanto third, Mella and Merry. This is going to be one of those races you don't want to be leading the penultimate lap.
Yeah, it is exactly a good old-fashioned Monza slipstreamer like they used to have back in the day in Formula One, when it was all about power and no grip. You know, the cars had much more power than they had grip, and the aero was non-existent, and you always used to see these fantastic scraps going on. But now we've got an old-school battle, and we've got, as Tom described, it's a bit like a Formula Ford battle. Those of you that have ever watched the Formula Ford Festival down at Brands Hatch will know what we mean by that, where you can perm one from any about 10 drivers that could win the race, because they're always scrabbling and positioning the car accordingly. But it does look like Wickens is going to be in a position to... I wonder if he's almost going to maybe not exactly let Gutierrez through, but not exactly overly defend either.
Yeah, well, that's what's made the racing so good, is these guys have been racing fairly and giving each other room, and they understand the bigger picture. They've obviously watched the GP2 race and seen the older boys show them how not to do it. And that's what, in my eyes, is, without sounding old-fashioned, and that's what's making the racing good. They all understand that in order to win this race, they've got to be there on the last lap, and they're doing a good job.
They are. Just at the back there, that scrap between Muller and Mehi getting really intense. They've swapped positions a couple of times, in a bit late there for Muller. I wonder about the state of Nico Muller's tyres, because he's been locking up big time into this. Certainly when he was scrapping for the lead with Wickens earlier on in the race, before he had that big oversteer that dropped him back down the order, seemed to be asking an awful lot. And Bertolotti in the background, wonder if the local knowledge may be working for him as he starts to scrap his way back.
This is the toe.
Look at this, positions the car really well around the outside. You can hear the whistle of the turbo as the car goes down through the gears. Now, we're going to take a very short break here on Eurosport. We'll be back with the rest of the action from Monza in just a couple of moments. See you very soon. If you've just joined us at Monza here for the remaining 3 laps of the GP3 race, the opening race of the weekend, then sit down and enjoy the rest of this race. If you've been watching us, you'll know what I mean. It's been absolutely thrilling stuff. The lead has changed countless times between this man, Esteban Gutierrez, who's just been crowned the champion, taking pole position, and the point that went with it made him the champion 2003. Robert Wickens looking very strong for second in the race at the moment, and certainly second overall, as we see there coming through our shot. Nico Muller just ahead of Roberto Mehi, with Mirko Bertolotti on the background in the middle of that scrap as well. We've also got Rio Haryanto, who is in the red and black Manor competition, Manor Motorsport car. That is the 19 car, Bertolotti, one of the young men that's been taken onto the Ferrari development program, Tom.
Yes, in front of his bosses, his employers, if you like, over Ferrari. Obviously all the Ferrari guys here. What a weekend to try and impress. We saw Bianchi put it on pole in GP2, and Bertolotti trying to mimic that success, I think. And well, if you're a betting man going back, we see a big lock-up. Is that Quay Fobbs?
Yeah, it is Quay Fobbs, yeah, just running a little bit wide.
Very bumpy in that braking zone, difficult to get the car stopped. And once you get locked up, that's Van der Zande.
That is Van der Zande. That's a technical problem of some sort, obviously. Let's hope it doesn't require a safety car. Well, actually, it wouldn't be such a bad thing, because we'd then have like a 12-car scrap for the last couple of laps. Yeah. I mean, so far, it's just been thrilling all the way. I mean, GP3, these cars come in, we saw them sort of first appear at the beginning of the year, and obviously a lot of question marks as to where they're going to fit into the motorsport ladder. We've obviously got Formula 3 and Formula 2 and other championships, World Series by Renault, that kind of fit in around it, but it seems to have established itself very well. There's lots of high-quality teams and drivers, and some pretty frantic action, some spectacular action, too spectacular at times, as Bertolotti now seems to manage his work his way ahead of Mehi, so he's obviously worked the toe well, Tom. Yeah, he's working the toe well. I think Mehi got balked a little bit by Muller. I don't think Muller's quite got the ultimate pace of the guys in front of him, but he's keeping himself there, cleverly using the toes. We see Mehi coming back at Bertolotti now. Has he got enough momentum to go all the way around the outside? I don't think he has. Bertolotti should hold on to this. If he gets the car stopped, he does. And Mehi has to lift on the exit there. That's going to spoil his run down to the first Lesmo. He's using all the banking into the corner now. Get the car out as someone runs a little bit wide in front of him.
Not sure who that is. So if you're a betting man with 2 to go, who are you going to put your money on, Simon?
Well, at the moment, it's got to be either Wickens or Gutierrez, and they seem to be the guys that have just seemed to have driven the strongest races. Their experience at Bertolotti there, we see doing a great job of just getting across in front of Mehi before the braking zone into the first corner and just about getting it done, which is pretty impressive stuff. But through the rest of the pack, the scraps continue. The 6 car of Daniel Morad, who has been looking stronger in the early part of the race. Mehi's coming back, and he's certainly not given up this position. And Bertolotti knows he's in a fight here, doesn't he? Around the outside of Parabolica, that's a brave move if that can be done. He gets on the power nicely, but I think Bertolotti just got enough to get back underneath him.
Yeah, I thought Bertolotti had
almost, sorry Tom, almost on the grass for Bertolotti, yes.
I thought he'd almost let him pass, but he hadn't. It was just the fact that Mary braked just so late that he couldn't get on the throttle, and the Parabolica is all about getting on the throttle, getting flat out as early as possible, and that's what let Bertolotti get back as they're fanning out 3 wide. And I think that was Newgarden behind them trying to pick up the pieces.
Oh, as they both throw Bertolotti and Mary run wide now.
Mary's still trying to pass him off the track.
Theoretically, I guess they should give that position up to Newgarden. Mind you, he was behind coming into it.
They won't.
They won't have gained a significant advantage, will they? Just coming into what is now our last lap. It is, when we just last saw it at front, we saw it was Gutierrez leading from Wickens. Third was Rio Haryanto. Nico Muller was in the scrap as well. This is the scrap, though, going on a little bit further down between Roberto Mehi.
That's the lead. Gutierrez from Wickens. Gutierrez has a bit of a cushion. This is what he wants. You don't want to be squabbling as hard as they have been on the last lap. Now this is looking very good for Esteban Gutierrez, the newly crowned champion for 2010. Can he sign off in style and win this first race of the weekend?
Could be his 5th win, and that's going to be a great way to end his championship campaign. Already the European Formula BMW champion in 2008, a Euro Series F3 campaign. Got him in experience, more experience of racing higher powered cars with more downforce. The yellow flag still waving, I think, for that stationary car of Renger van der Zande. But it looks like Gutierrez has done enough, driven a brilliantly patient and intelligent race. The fastest man in qualifying, the fastest man of the year. The new champion signs off from race 1 at Monza with victory. Esteban Gutierrez, the 19-year-old Mexican driver, comes through. Fantastic performance by him, just ahead of Robert Wickens. Oh, and that was very close between Rio Haryanto and Nico Muller in the background as they crossed the line. The rest of the pack swarmed through, and it has been an absolutely scintillating race. Tom, that was about as best we've seen all year from GP3.
I tell you what, we've seen more overtaking in that race than I think we've seen all year. But it was class. The guys behaved themselves. They gave each other racing room. They understood the bigger picture. The use of the toe, we saw moves around the outside, we saw darts up the inside, we saw everything. And ART guys celebrating. Obviously they're the team's champions as well. They were crowned that at last race in Spa. So